Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Detroit in Black and White presents Reality Strikes with Eric Brown. This is the debut show on this platform. I want to thank, the team of Adolph Mongo, Jim Nardoni, Vanessa Moss, as well as Alan Lango for giving me this opportunity to have my own show. And the show could not go on without Teresa being in the background to give us the production quality that she does give us. So thank you, Teresa, for all that you do. And first and foremost, I want to give reverence to Malcolm X. Malcolm X is someone that I have always had a great deal of respect for. Born in Omaha, Nebraska on May 19th, 1925. So today is the 100th anniversary of his birth. And he was just a great man, in my opinion. I mean, people have their opinions about him, but he was born Malcolm Little, later changed his name to Al Haji Malik Al Shabazz. And we knew him, as I grew up, as Malcolm X, a great man. And there's a lot of ways to look at the impact that he had on America, particularly Black America, today, because, it can easily be stated based on how a lot of things are in 2025. He is either upstairs in heaven giving Martin Luther King, Carmichael, and a few other civil rights luminaries high fives, or they are all shaking their heads, not necessarily in disgust, but being disappointed with regards to how the state of Black America is. So you have the Marcus Garveys of the world, W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and so many others. And you wonder how they are looking down upon us right now and wondering whether or not we had the baton passed on to us and dropped it, or if we are still running around that oval track trying to hand the baton off to others to continue on with their legacy. And speaking of batons, I want to give a definite shout out to the 4x100 female track and field team over at Lincoln King High School, where I serve as one of the head coaches. And I want to give them a shout out because this past weekend, previously 2 weekends ago, they came in second place in the 4x100 meter relay after a disappointing showing in the 4x200 relay where they dropped the baton. But they kept their heads held high and did not let what happened in the 4x200 relay deter them, and actually should have probably won the 4x100 relay at the Charter School Championships. They did not, but that's another story. They lost by 1/100th of a second to Romulus Summit Academy. A very close race. And again, 1/100th of a second, it shows how close it was. But they used that loss, that second place finish, that dropping of the baton in the 4x200 meter relay to take them to a 4x100 relay championship this past Saturday at the District 17-2 state regional event where they came in first place. So congratulations to Leilani Steele, Danae Mullen, Jasmine Hayes, as well as Zamira Cassidy. Zamira and Jasmine are seniors. They will be graduating, and we will be having a senior pinning ceremony for them this upcoming Friday at Lincoln King High School. And then we have Danae, who is a junior that will be back with us next year. And we have a future star in Leilani Steele, who is the anchor leg for the relay team. And she's only a freshman. And one of the unfortunate things about her being a freshman and being so good, track is a very competitive sport. People may not know it, but it's very competitive. And she will be doing some training with the Oak Park High School team over the summer. and they are one of the best in the state, if not one of the best in the country as well. They have turned out some amazing runners who are running, crafting their success at USC, as well as University of Southern California, University of Michigan, University of Georgia, as well as, I want to say, one of the Florida schools. So Oak Park has turned out some phenomenal female runners. They won numerous state championships in track over the last few years. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Leilani does not find her way at another school next year. Hopefully she won't. We need her, and we also need a lot of the other underclassmen that will be coming back, because they have an opportunity to be something great over at Lincoln King High School. And if you do not know, Lincoln King is a cornerstone charter school over on the west side. They occupy the former building that used to be St. Martin de Porres. So with all the shout outs, and again, thank you to Adolph, Jim, Alan, Vanessa, and Teresa for giving me this opportunity. And this forum will cover everything from sports, as I just talked about, to luminaries such as Malcolm X that have gone on to be with the ancestors. I will be talking about, great Americans, black, white, green, and purple, that are currently still amongst us, as well as bring in, nonprofit organizations to present their what they're doing in the community, impacting the community in a positive way. I know in 2 weeks, because I haven't decided if I'm going to do a show on Memorial Day, but in 2 weeks, I will have some individuals from the Cranbrook Horizons Upward Bound program come on to speak about the upcoming 60th anniversary of that program that will take place June 6th, 7th, and 8th on the campus of Cranbrook, Kingswood, and Bloomfield Hills. And that's just a phenomenal program of which I am a product of. And I don't want to speak too much on it, but you will learn so much about what Cranbrook Horizons Upward Bound has done for a lot of people, such as myself, a lot of individuals from the communities of Berkeley, Highland Park, Pontiac, and Detroit. So June 2nd, look forward to that. On either June 9th or June 16th, I will be talking about the Black Leaders Detroit Juneteenth event coming up, which will be held the weekend of June 20th. So June 20th and June 21st. June 21st is the main event that will take place right on the Riverwalk in Detroit, down at Valdez Park. So look forward to that. And that will be either June 9th or June 12th or June 19th, somewhere around in there. Anyway, looking forward to that. Actually, June 16th or June 9th. Sorry about that. Looking forward to that. And again, numerous nonprofits will have an opportunity to tell the community about what they're doing to make a difference, as well as I will always talk about politics. And one of the things I do want to talk about right now is, and it's a tough subject, not just to talk about, because people may feel that the conversation lacks empathy or sympathy. But one of the things that I have been very consistent about with regards to the election of 2024, I have always felt that Joe Biden should have never run for re-election. I know quite a few men that have suffered from prostate cancer. And with that being said, I'm not buying into we just found out. And I know that Elon Musk took a lot of heat for a comment he made with regards to Jill Biden. But I actually agree with what he said. She cared more about the power of being in the White House in that position of the first lady. And I also look at the situation that this is still the Bidens paying back the Democratic Party for what they did to him in 2016. That's just my opinion. I think that Joe Biden is still hurt about the fact that he was bypassed in 2016 and they gave the baton to Hillary Clinton. Because there's no way that someone that is at a Gleason level 9 find out about being at that level just 3 days ago on Friday. And that just speaks to the book that's coming out tomorrow called Original Sin, and how the Democratic Party, the handlers of Joe Biden vis-a-vis his wife, and some within the administration pretty much protecting him from situations that the public should have known about. And it could be debated as to whether or not it cost them the election. I say it did, because there's no way, had he stayed on the ballot, he would have won. They should have bowed down earlier, opened it up for an opportunity for a contested primary. They did not do that. And that speaks to the hubris as well as the arrogance of politicians. No matter if it's an R or a D after their name, running at the local, state, or federal level, the Democratic Party really have put themselves in a situation where future elections will be impacted based on how they handle the election 2024. Even Van Jones, who is a ardent supporter of the Democratic Party, he was on CNN Friday with David Axelrod, and he spoke about the situation. This was prior to the information about the diagnosis that came out Friday, but was revealed yesterday. And he spoke very viscerally about the situation. David Axelrod, he had no bones about it. He said that he was right since April of 2023, like myself. I was very, very dogmatic with regards to him announcing his re-election bid. And I have Jim from the Detroit in Black and White broadcast joining me this evening. And Jim, what's your take on the Joe Biden situation?
First, I want to say hello. This show, Reality Strikes, I'm really excited. Thank you for asking me to be on the show tonight. And thank you to all our friends out there that are tuning in tonight. This show will not go without you, and we need you. And thank you for being a part of it. Jill, Sam, Dwayla, Same Day Parlay. Thank you guys for commenting. If anybody's out there just sitting back, thank you for being here and not commenting. Well, here's where I take it, right? We all have a member of our family probably that suffered from dementia, or we have friends, or we know people that have suffered from Alzheimer or dementia. And the real challenge with that is they're not making decisions on their own. So someone else is typically making decisions for the person that's suffering, I'll say, for the victim of this, horrid disease. And my dad had dementia, so no secret there. For the last few years of his life, when he approached his 80s, he started, forgetting to do things like make his car payment or his house, whatever the case is. So he needed some direction, right? So people with dementia, and I can only give you my example, but they typically go back to a situation where they're more dependent, like children, in a lot of examples. They have moments of clarity, but again, there's not always moments of clarity. But what happens is they aren't the ones making a decision. So when we look at Joe Biden, we've identified, I say we, not me, but the citizens decided that they didn't want Joe Biden to be the president of the United States. But the real question is, whose fault is it? And I'm going to say that I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's not Joe Biden's fault. I think at some point people were leading Joe Biden, and I agree with you, the point you made. Prostate cancer is one of those diseases like colon, like a few cancers that people are more likely to die with than from. Prostate cancer, the doctor always tells you that. When you start getting a little up there in age, there's not a year goes by that you don't get a PSA test and that you maybe have another kind of test to check the size of your prostate. So I agree that Joe Biden has been suffering from this disease for quite some time. Now, where does the dementia come in? I hate that we're beating up on Joe Biden if he wasn't the decision maker in the process, right? If he wasn't the guy that sat down and said, hey, I want to be president of the United States. We need somebody in 2020 that can beat Donald Trump, because many people were afraid of Donald Trump for good reason. And they said, we can't win we're fractured. We need Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the voice of reason. Joe Biden is a traditional Democrat. And he ended up running and winning the presidency. So my question is, how far back do both of these diagnoses go? How far back was he suffering? Were they seeing signs of dementia? And how far back were they seeing signs of prostate cancer? My belief is that he probably had prostate cancer not before the 2024 election, but prior to the 2020 election.
And it's interesting you bring that up, Jim, because that's one of the things that his doctor actually stated, that he had prostate cancer during his presidency. I haven't read the full article yet, but as I was reading the article, he spoke to what you just talked about. And it's not, the thing is, it's not beating up on Joe Biden. I think, I'm looking at a comment from True Sensation. I think people have to understand, no one is talking about a conspiracy theory. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party, as well as the handlers of Joe Biden, hid his condition in 2024, as well as during the 2020 election. And I say that because you did not see Joe Biden during the 2020 election. They blame COVID, which depends on your perspective, could have been a legitimate excuse or could not have been a legitimate excuse. But people had Donald Trump fatigue, and that's why Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. Matter of fact, after the 2020 presidential election, I specifically stated in a post, because I had only been on Facebook at that time a little bit more than a year, that Joe Biden needs to send Donald Trump a thank you letter for being so terrible with regards to how he handled COVID. That's why Joe Biden won. He did not win because, both of them were bad candidates as far as I'm concerned. But again, to True Sensations, and we appreciate the comments, maybe we are electing old people. That's a fault on the part of the electorate. That could be one of the problems. But under the same token, this is not about saying it's a conspiracy. My lying eyes did not fool me into knowing when I saw that debate on June 27th, something was wrong. One of the most poignant parts of that debate on June 27th was when Joe Biden couldn't answer a question, and the moderators of the debate went to Donald Trump and asked him, would you like to respond to what President Biden just said? The exact words out of the mouth of Donald Trump was, I don't think he understood what he just said. That's something that should have been so alarming to the people that was watching, because that debate, was probably one of the worst debates I have ever seen in my life, because it showed that he was facing some real issues, Jim, and a lot of people want to ignore that. Now you have all these books that have come out, and people are saying maybe those that wrote the book should have said something then. Well, anytime someone said something negative about Joe Biden during the 2024 presidential campaign, this was even before he quit, you were seen as someone that loved Trump. No, it was not a matter of loving Trump. I saw that there was issues going on with the guy. And again, going back to April 2023, I was one of the main persons saying the guy should not be running. People cannot continue to let their hate for one person dictate their settling on another person for the presidency or any office. And that's how I saw it.
Well, I think,
and again, Jim, I think you're looking at the comments as well. What is your take? Going back to April 2023, when he announced his re-election bid, what was your take on that?
Well, I think this is something that we missed. I don't believe it was a conspiracy, True Sensation. What I believe is, and I know who True Sensation is. I know she's in a leadership role and she's a professional. This is what happens when you're in a leadership role. You need a collective to run any organization, a police department, the sheriff's office, Blue Cross, Blue Shield. You need a collective of individuals to run the organization. And in 2020, the Democratic organization, the collective, I'll say, decided that the urgency was to beat Donald Trump, and Joe Biden was the best selection, regardless of what condition he was in physically or even mentally. The collective decided that Joe Biden was the right to be the president. And guess what? They were absolutely correct. Joe Biden won an election, and they stopped Donald Trump from winning an immediate second term. I'm not calling it a conspiracy. it's a decision-making process that worked. Was it the right decision is my question. Was it the right decision for Joe Biden and his family for him to run for president in 2020 and 2024 before he pulled out?
Right, and I appreciate that, Jim, because that's one of the things I was going to get to with regard to the decision. But and I appreciate I'm able to see the comments because I want to make this as interactive as possible with all those that took the time out to watch the podcast. And again, one of the comments that I want to go back to True Nation before I get to Day, as well as I think Jill made a very, very important comment. But to True Sensation, you want to know. Because we can interact with regards to this situation. Let's get to the root cause. In your words, let's get to the root cause, not the symptoms. Well, the root cause is the fact that, in my opinion, he should not have run. And the root cause was he was not well enough to run, particularly run for re-election. That's a root cause. The symptoms are obvious. So why, to your point, Jim, did his family allow him, and this goes to what was made in a comment by Elon Musk today, that it was his wife that was more enamored and drunk on the power than looking out for the best interest of her husband. And I agree with Elon Musk. I mean, this is not the first time I've said this. She was more enamored with the position. She was pulling the strings, as well as his son Hunter, who of all people, why would you have that guy pulling the strings for your candidacy for the presidency of the United States of America, the most powerful person in the world? So they failed him. That's the only way you can look at it. His family failed him. You can't say that, according to the book, you can't say that all his cabinet members failed him, because according to some of the books, they were even outside looking in with regards to how things were being handled. So it's so many things to look at this with regards to the symptoms and not the root cause. And I think it was Jill. Let me look at the comments. Jill, you're right. It was alarming how he performed at that debate. And Jill also went on to say, no, it was someone else. Someone stated that he should have pulled out before April, and he should have pulled out in January. And I agree with them. Had he pulled out in January, they would have had an opportunity. Oh, there we go. It was from Scorby 13. Why didn't Joe pull out in January 2024 so that the Democrats could have went on through the selection process and not just had Kamala Harris as a front runner? I agree with him. There should have been a contested primary. In addition to that, well, there was a contested primary. People just didn't choose to vote for some of the other ones that were running for president on the Democratic side. But people want to poo-poo the fact that one of the most prominent Democrats in America, former President Barack Obama, he did not want Kamala Harris to be just adored into that role. He did not say that he did not want her, but he also pretty much stated he wanted there to be a contested primary and the best man or woman wins. That was the same stance that Nancy Pelosi took, one of the other more prominent persons in the Democratic Party. But for whatever reason, no one listened to them. And I say no one listened to them, and I've been saying this since day one, because they found somebody to use, because they pay attention to the numbers, Jim. They pay attention to the polling. The polling showed that had Kamala Harris not been selected, they would have lost a lot of support from the Black electorate. Well, they were already losing support from the Black electorate prior to the debate in June of 2024. Polls are already showing Black America, particularly Black males, defecting from the Democratic Party. So, you can't have it both ways when people want to make the argument about this situation, going back to the announcement about his reelection. It just doesn't work that way. You either agree that he should have ran, or you agree that he should have stepped away from it earlier. Most people, for whatever reason, and what's interesting also, Jim, had he not stepped away, as much as criticism he was getting, people still would have voted for him. So the argument is just mind-boggling to me when it comes to so many people.
And Scorp 13 makes a great point. If Joe Biden was ill and he stepped down, Kamala Harris would have been the president. She'd have been able to run, as an incumbent.
Yeah,
I would like to,
right. Right. She would have been run as an incumbent. I don't, her running as an incumbent, then running as the nominee, I think would have been, it would have still been interesting. But I just don't think the Democrats were in a position to win the election of 2024. It's just too many variables were at play.
So you don't think they would have been better positioned if Kamala Harris was the president and running against Donald Trump?
I said they would have been better positioned. I say that I still don't think they would have won.
Okay, I see.
I still think that Donald Trump will have, I definitely predicted him winning when he was going up against Joe Biden in 2024. Once the announcement on July 21st was made, again, I think you saw the New York Post article where I was featured in, and I stated in the New York Post article on July 22nd that she was not going to win. So I've been consistent with my position on the 2024 election. And it's someone that I did not vote for Donald Trump. I've never voted for Donald Trump. But again, when you pay attention to politics, you pay attention to understand the tea leaves, you know how things are going to fall. Just like in 2016, I predicted he was going to be Hillary Clinton.
How about Willis Martin's comment? And hello to Derek Henry out there. Thanks for tuning in, Derek. It's good to see you out there. Willis Martin makes a point. There's not a dime's worth of difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. I think that must be a George Wallace statement.
That's a George Wallace quote. And I agree with him. I say all the time, Jim, left wing, right wing, same bird. I say it all the time. And again, I have, people, get upset at me when they find out that I have not voted straight party ticket Democrat since 1988. Again, I have not voted for a major party candidate since 2008. 2008 was the last time I voted for a Democrat or Republican for president, which means I did not even vote for Barack Obama the second time around. And the pin I'm wearing, Day, it simply states, be the solution. It's the educational literacy pin that was given maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And I constantly talk, the one thing you have to do with regards to being in the game of anything is be the solution. You got to be that man in the mirror to make that change you want to seek. And the song is interesting. It parallels the Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in the world. Michael Jackson just simplified it by saying, man in the mirror, you want to make a difference, make that change. So who you got in 2029? Trump for first president to be? No, Trump would not be running in 2028. He would not be inaugurated as the president on January 20th, 2029. I just don't see it. As it stands right now, it's either going to be DeSantis. I mean, not DeSantis. It's either going to be the current vice president, Vance. I do think it's going to be interesting, Jim. I do think he will be challenged by other Republicans for the 2028 show. I'm reading what Sheila wrote. He will be challenged for the 2028 nomination. That's just my opinion. If he is someone considering running in 2028, there will be other Republicans that would challenge him. And the Democratic field just going to be wide open. I do think it would be a mistake for the Democrats to bet on Kamala Harris again. A poll just came out with her having, which is interesting, Jim, because a poll in California came out where she only had 33% support. But then a national poll comes out for 2028, and she leads that poll at 30% favorability for the nominee in 2028. So either the American as a whole don't get it, or those in California do get it because they don't want her to be their governor. So that's interesting.
Well, they're a little closer to her, just like, people think that Gretchen Whitmer may be a great president. And I'm guarded on my opinion. I think she's very smart. I think she's more a middle of the road kind of candidate. They love her all over the country. She probably has more criticism here in this state than she does anywhere else in the country, because California
It's interesting
knows.
you say that. Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
No, that's all I was going to say. California knows Vice President Harris, and Michigan knows Governor Whitmer for sure.
Right. And Scorby also stated, I don't think that Jill Biden wanted Kamala to be the first female president. Interesting comment, because in the Twitter, I still call it Twitter, there was a Twitter post from yesterday where it was headlined by saying Kamala Harris buries a hatchet with Biden. You know, I haven't read it yet because I'm not sure if it's referring to Biden Joe or Biden Jill, because it was definitely rumored that they did not like one another. And hello to you too, Janet. So it's very rumored that they two did not like each other.
Well, it's always a power struggle, right? And the vice president gets put in the background, just like the governorship here in Michigan. We talk about the lieutenant governor and, you know, where he sits today compared to where he sat before he ran for lieutenant governor. There's always an internal struggle. And I guess I'd like to know what the viewers think about, would Kamala Harris, we both agree that the Democrats would have been better positioned had Joe Biden stepped down and she was the president. I'd like to know what the viewers think about that.
If she would have been president, had he stepped down earlier?
Yes, if she had more of a, if
that's
she
your
had
question?
A chance, I guess. Yes, they were.
Oh yeah, she definitely had more of a chance. Yeah, she definitely would have had more of a chance, and she would have been better positioned as well. It's no different than Elissa Slotkin. Even though Debbie Stabenow did not step down, it's as if she did, because all the support and money went to Elissa Slotkin. And though Stabenow did not make an endorsement, behind closed doors, I'm sure there was a deal made with regards to that situation.
And Derek says, believe it or not, Whitmer in 2028. And I believe that. I believe she has enough of the middle space in the Democratic Party. She's not a left-wing, far left-winger. She's not a conservative Democrat. She can be conservative when she does bills and law that help business, and she can be liberal when she's doing human rights things. So I agree. I don't think Derek's wrong at all. I think she has as good a chance as anybody to be the president.
And what else is interesting, Jim, the way the rest of the country see her going to Washington, D.C., they see that favorably. Whereas here in Michigan, people see it as negative. So it's interesting that the rest of the country understands the role she has to play in going to Washington and meeting with President Trump. But those in Michigan are very critical of her doing that. That is a very interesting quagmire, as they say.
Well, she should have stood right up, and she shouldn't have tried to hide. That was a bad deal to hide.
Oh yeah, that was a bad. Yeah, that one. Yeah, her hiding. It's interesting. Was she serious when she did that, or was she joking? Because the cameras are all on you. So your face was still shown for the most part. So what were you doing as far as putting that portfolio in front of your face? That was a bad look.
And I appreciate James Craig, the candidate for mayor, former police chief, was on our show, and he acted and he made a point that Mike Duggan, you know, had a link to the current White House, and if he was mayor, he would have a link to the current White House. And I'm just not sure about how strong of a link and how helpful that link might be. I'm not sure. I don't really get it. I don't really get the connection between James Craig and Donald Trump. I guess there is some kind of connection, but I don't see that as an opportunity to bring, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to Detroit because they're familiar with each other.
I mean, he often speaks very highly of James Craig, and I would rather call him James Craig because one of the things the text message I sent you guys earlier today, one of the things that I took exception to, and I would have asked had I been available Saturday, you can't say it's not a political position, the chief of police. And at the same time, your website is political by saying Chief Jim Craig or James Craig for mayor. I mean, so that just doesn't match, in my opinion. I think that if you're going to say it's not a political position as chief, then just run as James Craig for mayor. By putting chief in front of it, I get it. You know, that's politics. You want the name ID and recognition. So people will know that if they like you as chief of the City of Detroit Police Department, they will like you as mayor. But then don't state that the chief role is not political and you make your website political with regards to the position you're running for. So that was something I just thought was a major contradiction. And Sam feels the way a lot of people feel. Kamala Harris is not presidential material. She don't have it. And, you know, people have to understand that's a lot of reason why a lot of people didn't vote for her. They just didn't feel that she was the type of person to be president of the United States. And I've always said, I think you mentioned it, Jim, I've always said that, and I think one of the viewers mentioned it as well, the only way she would have become president would have been him stepping down and her going into that role, because that's how the Constitution is written. But as far as being elected by the people, I just don't see it.
Well, then I asked the question, did she have her hands tied behind her back when she was vice president? She was a prosecutor. That's a tough job. Attorney general, right? Wasn't she a local prosecutor and she was attorney general of the state of California? Those aren't easy jobs. You don't have to like the attorney general of Michigan, or you can love whoever's the attorney general. But those aren't easy jobs, and you have to make independent decisions when you have that role. Now, when she became the vice president, she faded into the background, unfortunately. And Derek talks about
go ahead. It could have been by your statement, Jim. She had her hands tied,
which is unfair to her, for sure.
Yeah, victim of I won't say circumstance, but definitely a victim of politics or politricks, a victim of politricks. And see, the executive experience, I mean, that's one of the things that's very subjective, in my opinion. Yes, and I would use the deputy mayor as a bomber because that's a figurehead position. That's not it's not, you're not elected to be the deputy mayor. But being a chief of police, yes, that is an executive position. But Chantel Jenkins has some executive experience as well. I think that being a CEO makes you an executive. But who has more? Tomato.
We agree with that, Jill. We agree with that. However, she wasn't able to form, sadly, her own identity, a la Garland Gilchrist, in that position as vice president. And it seems like over the years, the vice presidents have all taken a back seat, not really participated in the important business of running the government. They're there to vote in the Senate whenever there's a tie, but they don't really get to form an agenda as vice president. We can go back however many years we want to go back.
You can go back many presidential cycles. You're right, Jim. And Score B. I mean, that's a legitimate comment. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I can't really. I don't know what was going on in her head. She knew she needed to be in Washington, D.C. to protect. She went there to protect the residents of our state, and I give her credit for that. It was a courageous move, but I don't like the idea that she was distancing herself from it. You can't have it both ways, would be my my position.
And she did something for the people. She got the Selfridge Air Force Base. She got them some extended life, which are more jobs for those people in that community, as well as, being able to maintain the amount of Air National Guards as well as Air Force enlisted men at the base. So that was a positive. And that's where the new, I forgot what the new airplane is going to be called. That's where it's going to be built out at the, or stationed out of the Air Force Base. So that makes Michigan a primary location in the event of an act of war from another country.
She's never been afraid.
Why she's still away? Huh?
She's never been afraid to distance herself from Donald Trump. She's been very critical of him, and sometimes she's right when she criticizes the president. So,
right, and then it's all tough. Just like he called her all kinds of names during 2020 COVID and all that. But sometimes you cannot like a person, but you have to be able to deal with a person when you need something. And that goes without saying. Hello, Deborah. She just joined us. And I agree with DeLance Farrell. She has, one of the things that's interesting about politics, they say they make strange bedfellows. She has earned his respect. I agree with DeLance Farrell. People look at letters after a name too much. And at the end of the day, you have to work together. I mean, I know, well, you know that, Jim. I know Republicans. I know Democrats. I've been to Republican events. All they do is lane-based the Democrats. I've been to a Democrats event. All they do is lane-based the Republicans. But behind closed doors, deals are being made in the best interest of the constituents in the community. And that's how it should be. We don't know exactly what takes place behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, a lot of these things that happen would not get done unless there was a mutual respect on the part of both sides of the aisle.
And it's a lot of it's theatrics, right?
Oh, yes, theatrics. And Derrick Henry, I agree with him. He has the best chance to get some money out of the Republicans for the city of Detroit. I mean, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And that's why people better be very careful. And you've heard me say this, Jim. 2026 may turn red in the governorship office as well as the U.S. Senate seat. Don't be surprised if Mike Rogers win that Senate seat. You see how close it was with Elizabeth Slotkin. But in addition to that, I'm saying it don't have to be John James, but even if Mike Duggan were to win the election, that would be a win for the Republican Party. People fail to understand, and it's just my opinion from just observing him over the years, going all the way back to when he was a Wayne County prosecutor. I feel he is more of a conservative than a liberal. Talking about Mike Duggan. What's your opinion on that?
I think he is the kind of politician that this country, whether we agree with it or not, is looking for. Somebody that's not filled with hate, that doesn't hate the Democrats because he's a Republican or hate the Republicans because he's a Democrat. He's coming out and saying it's all nonsense. We need to focus on running the city or the state and forgetting about these titles. And that's going to be a popular position here in the next few years, I believe.
Yeah, that will be. And then, Teresa, can you put up the comment from Day, the last comment he made? And I'm assuming he's talking about Jennifer Granholm. Excuse me. Well, same person. He's talking about Jennifer. He's talking about Governor Whitmer. She should have taken the blows and got more defense and private sector jobs for every other county but Wayne County. And see, you might want to go into detail on what the Project Diamond is, Dave, because a lot of people, I'm not that familiar with it, so you might want to go into detail on that.
And I just wanted to just circle back a little bit on what Squirp says. When the governor was hiding, she was hiding behind a notebook or whatever. I saw that photograph or that videotape, and I don't think she was hiding the whole time. I think she was probably trying to make a point. I don't know if it was symbolic. I don't know exactly what she was doing, but she was in the Oval Office. It appears that she didn't want to be part of his press conference. And I get that, but I think there was probably a better way to do it. Maybe step out or say I need to go to the restroom or something, and to be in the mix when all those photos were taken. I think she was taken off or caught off guard when she did that.
But what is she hiding after there was already some agreement made between her and him with regards to Michigan? Because I think that's the same visit she was there where Michigan received the good news about Selfridge Air Force Base.
Yes.
So why hide? You got what you want. Well, I'm not sure that's what she went there for specifically, but why hide? You know, he's going to say what he's going to say. He has the bully pulpit to say what he's going to say. And if he said something make it seem like you was his BFF, I mean, that goes to the territory. You there now. He
was praising her, and it made her uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah,
so like, and it made a lot of Democrats uncomfortable that he was praising her.
Oh, it definitely made a lot of Michiganders uncomfortable. And thank you for joining us, Edward A. So it definitely made the Michiganders uncomfortable, those that support the Democratic Party. And yes, you're right, Day. It is obvious that Duggan is more of a conservative, in my opinion, than a liberal. I think that. I mean, he has family members that are Republicans. I mean, his brother, I think, was the judge who was a conservative judge down at federal court downtown. So yes, and you have people within the same family that are Republicans and Democrats. So that comment about the Diamond Project, it's a 3D printer project that received $400+ million to be split among the big three counties. And that's something he did ask Durhal about after we went off the air when we had Durhal down there as a guest, Jim.
Yeah, I don't remember the conversation, or I wasn't privy to that.
So you guys were in the midst of packing up, and this was the conversation he had with Durhal while you all were packing up. And you're right, Sheila. They cross over and make deals behind the scenes all the damn time. And people need to understand that. That's why, you know, left wing, right wing is nothing but politics and deal making, just like what happened up at Mackinac this past weekend. That would be happening through the week, because you have a situation where only 5 people would be at the debate on the 29th. You know, the Mackinac Party Conference debate. You know, I think that's unfair. I don't think you should use polling as a way to say who's the best to be at a debate. Because polling, unless you're polling every citizen in every county or every citizen in every community becomes to a local election, you can't allow 400 people to dictate who should be invited to a debate. I mean, I think everybody should be there. I mean, even with the Democratic Party, well, Republican Party and the Democratic Party in 2020, the first few debates, you had a stage with 20 people on the stage. I mean, you had the debate with 20 people on the stage. And yes, it could get convoluted and messy, but it is what it is.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Willis, for your comments. Score B13 is right on target. That's why I enjoy communicating with our colleagues here, because they're very intelligent. They're very intuitive. They know what's going on out there, and I appreciate it. And thank you, Derek, for that comment about Chief Craig. Well, I guess when we talk about Chief Craig, I ran a small police and fire department, about 100 people, not 5,000 people, and it's difficult. It's difficult because you're dealing with a community and you're dealing with people inside your organization. So I will tell you that there are never-ending challenges when you run a public safety department, and James Craig ran 4 big ones. So 4, Cincinnati, Portland, Maine.
Well, he ran 2 big ones, Cincinnati and Portland, Maine. Detroit, Maine only got a population 12 for the whole state. So
And Los Angeles that has whatever
Los Angeles,
25,000
without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, he ran it with
police officers or whatever. He was running thousand. I'm sure he had a few thousand people under his command there. So I've always said you cannot argue about his leadership experience.
Oh,
that's what I believe.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining us, Vanessa. I mean,
hey,
how are
you?
You just came from walking the dog or something?
Listen, I got the text this morning, and I was like, "What the heck is he talking about?" So, I did my walking today. I still work out. Did my walk, and I went to the grocery store, and I got in. I was like, "Wait a minute." So I'm in. I'm sorry. You look all dapper today. You got on a blazer, and I don't know what's on your lapel, but you look nice. Hey, Jim.
Good evening.
My lapel. Nice did you and Day just get off the phone? Because my lapel says, "Be the difference."
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Edward A, to your question, depending on whether or not I do a show next Monday on Memorial Day, we will have more details on who the guest will be. But on the 2nd of June, the focus of the show will be about the Cranbrook Horizons Upward Bound program, as we will be celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And that will be an opportunity for people to learn more about the program, the success of so many that have come out of that program, and just talk about what that 6-year program has meant to so many of us. And I will have the director of the program, the fundraiser for the program, as well as some students who had an opportunity to win scholarships to attend Cranbrook Kingswood and what their experience was like and things of that nature. So that's what the program will be focused on June 2nd. Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to do a Memorial Day show, which is next Monday. But if I do, between now and Saturday, you will know about the guests for that show. And thank you, Edward. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you for supporting Detroit in Black and White. And as I stated, you were not here, Vanessa. This debut is the result of support from yourself, Adolph, Jim, Alan, and Teresa, believing in me, having the chops to do something on my own. So I appreciate you all for giving me this opportunity on the Detroit in Black and White Forum.
Well, we actually, we enjoy having you on Detroit in Black and White. And while we disagree, like I've said so many times, we all love each other. It's like a family.
Don't say dysfunctional. Don't say dysfunctional family. I knew
a functional family with different views. I'm going to say we're like the island. We're on the island of the misfit toys.
No, that's a bad analogy.
I thought it was funny. But yeah, I think it is great because you know what? All of us have different opinions. All of us are passionate about different things. And so this is another avenue for you to get out your message about literacy and the plight of education. Although, like I said, it's been like this for a very, very long time. Thank you for the happy birthday. Somebody must have been looking at my Facebook post saying happy birthday because I celebrated my birthday this past weekend.
And one of the things, you brought up literacy, Vanessa. One of the things, definitely one of the future shows, if the Juneteenth show is on the 12th, then the June 19th show will speak specifically to literacy because they're about to get out of school soon. Mm-hmm. There's this thing, you're a former teacher, Vanessa, not at the college range because the summer slide is different in college. But that time between the last day of school of the school year and that first day of school of the new school year, a lot of these kids are not reading books. A lot of these kids are not doing homework in the summer. A lot of these kids are not going to the library. And there's a thing called a summer slide. And when school starts back up in the fall, the teachers are spending 2-3 weeks just playing catch up. So they get behind at the beginning of the school year. And we have to find a way to remedy that. So definitely one of the shows in the upcoming future will focus specifically on literacy and talking about some of the things that we in the community can do. Just this evening at the 100 Black Men monthly meeting, we had someone from the Black Male Educational Alliance as the keynote speaker for us. And he talked about the importance of seeing Black male faces in the classroom, because the statistics are terrible. I thought it was about 4% of those that were Black males in the classroom. The number is only 1.3% nationally. 1.3%.
This is
Black males are teachers in the classroom.
This is very interesting because, believe it or not, like I said, I just came in. I was on the phone. I don't know. I think you know my sayings, but she and I was talking, and she took her niece to a program to apply, I think for a welding program. And guess what? You needed to have a 6th grade, be able to read on the 6th grade reading level. And the young lady said,
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, let me tell you what she said. She said she told the people there that she was offended because she has a college degree. She's graduated from college. And the response was, you would be surprised. And I laughed because you're talking about education now, but I think we all can agree that the plight of education has been sad for many, 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 many decades. Those of us that made it through, we made it through because we had support, not just support at home, but support of our village. But when the lady said to her, you'd be really surprised because she was a college graduate, I said to myself, I laughed when Tracy told me this, and you and I have talked, Jim, we've talked, and Adolph talked, teaching on a higher level. Listen, for decades, they've been passing people along. So when we talk about the plight of education, you have people who are going to college, getting bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and some of them even getting PhD degrees. And listen, I question whether or not they can spell Mickey Mouse. I'm not trying to be funny, okay?
You're right. You're right.
It is really sad. And these are the same individuals that are giving jobs to go and teach these very kids that you're talking about. Once upon a time, it used to be the brightest and the best. The brightest and the best. Now is whoever can get through this process, whoever got passed along, and we need to fill this. And I'm not saying that is with all. I'm not trying to paint a very broad picture, but I'm trying to paint a picture of reality. We do have a lot of that, and that is really sad.
It's sad. True Nation, he asked a question about sharing. Well, he posed the issue about sharing information on how viewers can volunteer and support. And again, on the 12th or the 9th, the 12th or the 9th or the 16th of June, one of those shows will be on literacy. So as much information as possible will be presented to the viewers again on June 9th or June 16th. It depends on when I have the event with regards to the Black Leaders Detroit on to talk about Juneteenth 2021 on the riverfront in Detroit at Valdez Park. So again, June 9th or June 16th will be the show on literacy, True Nation.
So, Eric, I want to ask you a question, and then I want to suggest something. When I said that she was told, now she's trying to get into a welding program, this young lady, there's a welding program. I said 6th grade reading level, and you said you were surprised that it was 6th grade. You thought it should be higher or lower?
No, I'm not surprised it's at 6th grade. What I'm saying is most newspapers, as well as information policy and procedures, are written at the 4th or 5th grade level. Right. So I'm just surprised they have it. I'm surprised they have it higher than that, because a lot of people, 85% of prisoners in prison read no more than a 4th grade level. So a good friend of mine, he was saying he's a returning citizen of many years now, but he even suggested that to get out of jail, one of the conditions to get out of jail is that parolees should be able to at least read at a 5th grade level to get out of jail. Considering most information is written, newspapers and all that are written at a 4th grade level.
And so for those who I like to hear, I know this probably take forever, but if I can't read at a 5th grade level, that means I stay in. I mean, I don't understand.
Well, he just feels that, that should be you're there. You have a lot of time on your hand. Take advantage of that time and learn how to read.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing it, because that's one of the reasons why recidivism is so high. A lot of these people that can't read at the 4th grade level, they're going back into jail, not reading at the 4th grade level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's a good suggestion. I just don't know if that is
feasible or realistic.
Exactly, because I mean, if I've done everything else and you telling me I got to stay in because I didn't finish reading, if because I chose not to perform at a 5th grade level or do whatever, I don't know, but
shouldn't that be motivation? Shouldn't that be motivation to get out though?
I don't know.
I don't think he's talking about parole. I don't think he's talking about
no.
denying parole. I think he's just kind of making a point, right? That people should be
I hope that's what it is.
Welcome to Detroit. Welcome to Detroit, Willis Martin.
Yes, thank you. And before I forget, Eric, Edward A., and I just lost it. It said, take Memorial Day off and support our veterans like myself. Thank you for your
sacrifice. I saw that.
Country, Edward. And if you're ever bored and you're ever down this way, the Victory Health Club in Wyandotte is free for all veterans and first responders, and maybe you can stop in and see me sometime. True Sensation, my old friend, thank you for tuning in. Shannon and Willis is a new Detroiter. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't miss you.
A lot of
making great points.
A lot of new viewers. I'm looking at the names.
We couldn't do it. This is about you. This is our only. We lost an option, and this show, if I may, really briefly. Adolf and Vanessa. Adolf was on the radio for 7 or 8 years, and that radio station is now gone. And if you're getting your news from the mainstream media, you're probably not getting accurate news. And we hope that collectively, some of us can work together and seek truth and share truth.
And appreciate you, Shannon McFall. I haven't, seen you in a while, and hope all is well with you. And that brings us to the end of. We went a little bit over. I want to appreciate all the viewers. I want to appreciate Teresa for all she does in the background. Appreciate you, Jim and Vanessa, for joining me this evening. And I guess I will take that advice and give tribute to the veterans next week. And therefore, the next show will be on June 2nd. And again, on June 2nd, most of the show will be dedicated to the Cranbrook Horizons Upward Bound program, telling people about that, as well as the celebration of the 60th anniversary of the program that has meant so much to so many of us, myself, my brother, that without it, there's no telling what it could have done for us staying in the streets of Detroit over the summer as opposed to being in summer school up at Cranbrook. So
Eric,
you'll learn more.
What? You should tap into Dr. Mongo the month of June, because you're doing something about literacy, and I know she does something, so you may want to have her on the show. Because
she does something. Yeah, matter of fact, interview we brought that up. Yeah, we talked about that already, and based on my speaking during Black History Month. So yeah, she let me know about the program in June. Well, all through the summer. So yeah, I will invite her on the program as well. Thanks, Vanessa.
Yep.
And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the congratulations as it relates to the show. And again, Reality Strikes is a resumption of the show I used to do on internet radio. And what's interesting about that, I was doing internet radio prior to the advent of podcasting. And so me and my former co-host, have we stuck with it, I could have been, what's that guy named? Joe Rogan. But you don't know.
You may still be.
You don't know at the time. So that was a very successful show, and I think Scott Boswell and his wife Karen for giving me an opportunity on that, and his brother Stuart, college classmate from Eastern Michigan University, was my co-host. But I want to do the same thing here. And just like with that show, it was kind of mild today, but just like with that show, Reality Strikes will always be about straight, no chaser commentary, because I think I am a firm believer of telling people what they need to hear versus what they want to hear. So again, thank you all for tuning in this evening, and enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your Memorial Day holiday. For those in Detroit, you get down to some of the activities related to movement, techno music, house music. Go enjoy yourself and stay warm, because it's not going to be a warm week or weekend coming up. So stay warm. And again, thank you for tuning in. Good night, and come into the future. We have some theme music, intro theme music, and outro theme music. The outro will always be Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror.
I knew it was going to be Man in the Mirror. I knew it.
And the intro would be John Mayer's Change.
Oh, I thought you was going to say maybe some Earth, Wind, and Fire, but okay.
No, that'd just be some interludes, Earth, Wind, and Fire. All right, good night, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.